Good evening, and welcome to today's deep dive into one of the most significant diplomatic developments of the day. In a world where conflicts often seem intractable, a single phone call can shift the geopolitical landscape. Today, October 16, 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a lengthy conversation that culminated in an agreement to meet face-to-face in Budapest, Hungary, with the explicit goal of negotiating an end to the ongoing war in Ukraine. This announcement comes at a pivotal moment, just one day before Trump is scheduled to host Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House. It's a move that has sparked hope, skepticism, and intense global scrutiny. Over the next, we'll unpack the background, the details of this call, the planned summit, its potential implications, and what the public is saying. Let's get started. To understand the weight of this development, we need to step back and revisit the context of the Russia-Ukraine war. Now in its fourth year since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022, the conflict has claimed hundreds of thousands of lives, displaced millions, and reshaped international alliances. Ukraine has mounted a resilient defense, bolstered by Western military aid, including advanced systems like HIMARS rockets and Patriot air defenses. Recent months have seen escalated Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian oil infrastructure, which experts say are straining Moscow's economy without sparking the internal revolt some hoped for. On the Russian side, advances in eastern Ukraine have been grinding and costly, with reports of heavy casualties and reliance on North Korean troops for support. The war has also strained global energy markets and food supplies, with Russia's blockade of Ukrainian ports exacerbating inflation worldwide. President Trump, who returned to the White House after the 2024 election, has made ending this conflict a cornerstone of his foreign policy. He's positioned himself as a deal-maker, drawing on his self-described rapport with Putin from his first term. This isn't their first interaction since Trump's inauguration. Today's call marks their eighth phone conversation in 2025 alone. Trump's approach emphasizes direct leader-to-leader diplomacy over prolonged multilateral talks, a style he credits for recent successes elsewhere. Just last week, he brokered a fragile ceasefire in Gaza at the Sharm el-Sheikh summit, which has held despite ongoing tensions. Under that agreement, Israel committed to allowing 600 aid trucks into Gaza daily, though fewer have been permitted amid disputes over Hamas's compliance. Hamas is required to disarm and relinquish governance roles, but questions linger about their full adherence. Trump highlighted this Middle East progress in his Knesset speech earlier this week, suggesting it provides leverage for tackling Ukraine. Interestingly, we made progress today because of what's happened in West Asia. It's a classic Trump tactic, linking wins in one arena to pressure points in another. Now, let's turn to the specifics of today's phone call. The conversation lasted more than 2 hours, described by Trump as very productive in a post on Truth Social. According to a statement from Kremlin Yuri Yushakov, Putin initiated the discussion, congratulating Trump on his Middle East achievements and expressing interest in future trade once the war ends. The leaders reportedly touched on personal notes to Putin, thanked First Lady Melania Trump for her work with children, adding a human touch to the high-stakes dialogue. But the core was Ukraine. They agreed to preliminary meetings between high-level advisors next week, with U.S. Senator Marco Rubio leading the American side. The bombshell: Trump and Putin will meet in person in Budapest to hammer out a potential peace deal. Trump called the war inglorious and emphasized the urgency of resolution, stating, "President Putin and I will then meet in an agreed-upon location, Budapest, Hungary, to see if we can bring this inglorious war between Russia and Ukraine to an end." No exact date was announced, but sources suggest it could happen in the coming weeks. Why Budapest? It's a choice loaded with symbolism and strategy. Hungary, under Prime Minister Viktor Orban, has positioned itself as a neutral island of peace in Europe, often critiqued for its pro-Russian leanings within the EU. Orban quickly welcomed the news, posting on X after a call with Trump, "Preparations for the USA-Russia Peace Summit are underway. Hungary is the island of peace." He earlier called it great news for the peace-loving people of the world and affirmed, "We are ready." Budapest evokes historical irony too. The 1994 Budapest Memorandum, where Russia guaranteed Ukraine's sovereignty in exchange for nuclear disarmament, a pact now seen as broken. As one satirical ex-post quipped, meeting Trump in Budapest is perfect. That's where we promised never to invade Ukraine in the first place. Practically, it is tricky for Putin. An international criminal court arrest warrant hangs over him for alleged war crimes, limiting travel in ICC signatory countries like those in the EU. Speculated routes include flying via Belarus, Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary, though Poland's pro-Ukraine stance might complicate that. Humorously, some online commentators joked about Russian scientists inventing quantum teleportation to get him there safely. This timing couldn't be more charged. Tomorrow, Trump hosts Zelensky for their fourth in-person meeting this year. Zelensky has pushed for long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles to strike deep into Russia, potentially disrupting logistics and command structures. Trump is considering this, alongside new sanctions coordinated with Congress and Europe. But critics argue Putin's outreach is a stalling tactic, buying time amid Ukraine's effective drone campaign. As one analyst on X noted, Putin calling Trump right before his meeting with Zelensky shows how desperate he is. He's scared of Ukraine's growing strike campaign. Others see it as Trump falling for it again, potentially delaying aid to Kyiv. On the flip side, if successful, this could mark a diplomatic triumph, echoing Trump's Gaza deal. Yet fairness demands we apply the same scrutiny. Similar U.S.-brokered ceasefires, like in Gaza, have been fragile, with aid restrictions and sporadic violence persisting. Judging by that standard, any Ukraine agreement must ensure verifiable compliance to avoid becoming another paper promise. Broader implications ripple out. For Europe, this underscores divisions. The EU unveiled a rearmament plan today, warning of Russian threats by 2030 and proposing projects in border protection, drone defense, air defense, and space. Commission President Ursula von der Leyen stated, "The recent threats have shown that Europe is at risk. We have to protect every citizen and square centimeter of our territory." A quick US-Russia deal might ease tensions but could sideline EU voices. For West Asia, Trump's pivot highlights interconnected conflicts, Russia's diminished influence there, due to Assad's fall in Syria and Iran's setbacks, might make Putin more amenable to compromise in Ukraine. Globally, markets reacted positively. As one crypto investor posted, peace is always bullish for the markets, but skeptics warn of no real progress, with one Ukrainian voice on X saying, "I fully expect it to buy Russia more time and yield no meaningful progress." Public reactions on platforms like X reflect this divide. Proponents hail it as the president of peace at work, with over 4,000 likes on a post praising Trump's deal-making. Critics, including former U.S. Ambassador Michael McFaul, quipped, "I hope Trump's meeting with Putin in Budapest will be more productive than their meeting was in Alaska," a subtle jab at past summits' mixed results. Ukrainian commentators express wariness, fearing concessions that weaken their position. Overall, the discourse blends optimism with caution, underscoring the event's gravity without targeting nations unduly. In wrapping up, today's Trump-Putin call and the Budapest summit agreement represent a bold step toward resolving one of the world's most destructive conflicts. It's a reminder that diplomacy, when pursued with resolve, can open doors, even if the path is fraught with obstacles like arrest warrants and historical betrayals. While we must temper enthusiasm with realism, after all, talks have faltered before, the potential for peace is undeniable. As Trump himself might say, sometimes you need a dealmaker to cut through the noise. Stay tuned for updates on Zelensky's visit tomorrow. This story is far from over. Thank you for joining us.